Welcome to the oasis.state podcast, a podcast where we peel back the layers of life's mysteries, decode the cosmic dance, and embrace the technicolor tapestry of our existence. I'm Zoe, your guide through the twists and turns of this wild journey we call life. If you've ever felt like you don't quite fit into society's mold, well, you've found the right place. Join me as we dive deep into the pool of existence, exploring the WTF moments that make life simultaneously confusing and exhilarating. From soul-expanding experiences to heart-wrenching healing journeys, we'll shine the light on all of it, and I'll share how we can alchemize these moments into pure magic and transformation. Consider this podcast your safe haven, your home away from home, where you can let your freak flag fly and embrace the full spectrum of who you are. So are you ready to join me on this soul-expanding adventure? Buckle up, my friends. Let's make some magic together. Hello, dear ones. Welcome back to another episode of the Oasis.state podcast. My name is Zoe Carey. Let's get into it. So I just wanted to share some tips and hints through, let's say mistakes that I've made with communicating with people around you. And not all communication that we have with our loved ones is going to be the most high vibing conversations. Like, just say you're struggling, like I'm stuck in a job and I just don't like it. And you feel like you just need to talk all the time with everyone around, like, but I don't like my job, or my boss did this, or, you're constantly needing, I want to say complain, but you're not complaining. But if you're someone that really needs to soundboard and speak your truth and how you're feeling out loud to people to make sense of how you're feeling, which is a very, very healthy way to make sense, like I said, of how you're feeling about something, your relationship with something. I just want to give you guys a few tips and hints around how to communicate in a more healthy way, because say you've been stuck in a rut, or you feel like you're having the same conversation with people all the time. Firstly, be really compassionate with yourself, because like I said, we are social human beings and we do need to express our truth out loud, sometimes in a safe space, to understand exactly how we're feeling. But in the same breath, we also need to be compassionate to those around us and realize that if, say, you are in a rut and you're in like a particularly low vibrational cycle, other people around you might be getting a little bit worn down by you constantly needing their support or needing to have a conversation. Oh, the same thing again. Look at, Zoe, she's complaining about her job, or this or that. And it's totally valid for you to need to talk about these things, but it's also super valid for your friends, family, loved ones around you to not have the space to continually have those conversations with you. So obviously, if you've got people around you that don't want to ever let you talk about something negative or something that's bothering you, you're probably going to have to reassess who you're spending time with, because if you've got healthy, conscious people around you, they should have the capacity to hold that space for you to be like, like Zoe's really struggling with, feeling healthy or meditating or, whatever it is, But in my experience, when I'm really, really stuck in a situation, like, I need to talk about it more than once. And I've gone through all these waves of guilt around, like, oh God, like, I'm talking to my mom and my partner and my friends about it. Like, I sound like a broken record. And to be honest with you, some of it was probably unconsciously playing out that same victimhood of like, like, fucking, okay, you've gotten to the point, you get it. You don't like your job, or you don't like this or whatever. But there's like an accountability piece there where you need to be like, okay, I've voiced it enough. I need to start taking action. So I just want to offer you some healthy communication tips, so that if you are feeling like you're stuck in a rut, or you need to continually talk about something, and it might be something huge, like you've gone through a gnarly breakup, or a friend really hurt you, or something like really like deeply triggering and wounding for you, and you're really going to need your community to stand around you, here are some things to help even the playing field, so you can respect where you're at, but also respect where that person is at. Because if you're feeling like, oh, I'm feeling like a little bit of distance from this friend when I talk about something, chances are, well, one, they're also a completely complex being, and they're going through their own thing. And it's incredible that they've stopped to hold some space for you. But two, maybe they're feeling a bit worn out by constantly having to hold space for you. And it might you might listen to this episode and there might be a point where you're like, yeah, okay, no, actually I'm talking about everything and I can feel that my friends are getting frustrated because I'm not actually taking any action towards it. If that's the piece for you, then be kind with yourself and realize that, yep, okay, cool, I've expressed my truth. I'm very, very clear on what's dissatisfying me or what's like out of accordance. But then you might need to stop talking and start taking some action or start doing some of that inner work. So a reason why a friend or a loved one might be pulling away from you is because they're like, oh, so I was like, we've talked about this a whole bunch of times and I can't see you like playing your part in being the conscious creator of your life and wanting to change something. And you know, that might hurt to hear because you're like, well, no, everyone's meant to be by my side unconditionally. And you know, life's just really hard for me. And it's like, cool, yeah, like life is definitely going to be hard. But if you're driving yourself crazy by what you're saying and what you need to talk about and all of your feelings, like chances are you're driving the people around you crazy as well. And that's no reason to beat yourself up or feel like you're unsupported by anyone. But there is an accountability piece. So that first part of this, if you're listening, like, oh yeah, no, that's me. I'm definitely like, every time I catch up with a friend, you know, I've got to talk about this boy that broke my heart 5 years ago and I just can't get over it. So realizing if you have spoken about it enough. Have you spoken about the thing that's bothering you enough? So sit with that question and get that answer for yourself. I can't answer that. I'm just offering you an invitation to go within. If you're still really confused and wanting to soundboard with friends about it, here's a few tips that can kind of even the playing field so it can validate what you're going through, but then also validate that that person might not have the capacity to hold that space for you. And it's such a simple thing, but it's not really done very often. And what I'm suggesting is before you just blurt out to a friend via phone call, if you're having coffee or a voice message or a text, before you just make it all about you, if you're having a hard day and you want to talk to a friend about something, and it can be for the first time or it could be for the 50th time that you need to talk about this thing, but consent is sexy. So if you're like, fuck, I'm having a really hard day, I just want to talk to my friend about it, you need to start respecting their energetic capacity. And you can do this through consent. So you could message a friend like, hey, I'm having a really tough day. I was wondering if you have the capacity to have a conversation with me about it, or can we go for a walk or whatever? And you need to respect that person's sovereign right to say yes or no to that invitation. And if they say yes, that's fantastic. Like, yeah, babe, no, totally. Like, call me up. What's going on? What's bothering you? And even as you're letting this, like this, you know, piece of information land in your body, doesn't it already feel a bit more even and a bit more balanced to not just be caught up in your own world and then blurt out to a friend like, oh my God, so Graham texts me, you know? You can be like, hey babe, like, you know, I've been a bit triggered again by old mate X, like, can we talk about it? And if they say yes, how much better does that feel already? Like I said, it's a balanced situation because it's not invalidating that you're struggling, but it's also respecting that they are going through their own complexities of life and completely have the right to not be able to hold space for you, you know? So yeah, I encourage you to try that out. It's been an absolute game changer for me, and it's just a beautiful, you know, even playing field. If that person does say no, like, oh, sorry, babe, I'm so busy with work, I just don't have time, but maybe on the weekend I can take you out for coffee. You need to respect that decision and know that it's nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And not in a way of like, well, you know, that person doesn't have the capacity for me, so fuck them. It's like, respect that and realize that you orbit around your own universe, but they have their own universe as well. And it might be tough at the start. It might feel like a rejection or that they don't care or they're not supporting you, but they're doing that from a place of like setting their boundary is from a place of love and respect for themselves and love and respect for you, because they have acknowledged that they cannot hold the adequate space for you for that conversation or that quality time together. So they're actually doing you a favor by setting that boundary. Like, I can't talk about this right now, or listen, like we've talked about it a lot. Maybe you should talk to someone else about it. So make sure your ego is not involved in their response. If they're happy to talk about it, great, celebrate that. And like I said, like pay attention to how great that feels in your body, because you're like, cool, consent is sexy. And they said, yes, I can talk about this thing. And they will be able to have the capacity to hold that beautiful space for you because you've given them the opportunity to be a voluntary part in whatever you need to soundboard with them. But then if they don't as well, take that in your stride. Make sure your ego is not involved in that response, and just be like, don't be disappointed. It's just an invitation to self-soothe and to come back to yourself. Like, yes, it's great to soundboard. Like I said, I'm not invalidating that we need to express how we're feeling outwardly, but if there's a reason you can't do it in that time, maybe it's divine intervention. Like, oh shit, like my friend's not available. Oh, but I've got the day off. Fuck, maybe I should just like go down to the beach and do some journaling, or, maybe try and call another friend and kind of share the load. So respect that person's boundaries as well. And it's not because they don't love you or care for you or anything. They are just respecting themselves as well in the capacity that they have. Because if you push and push to have that audience with that person, they're going to be like half-heartedly involved in that because you didn't respect their boundaries, sort of thing. So that's the first piece that I want to offer, is that, yeah, ask for consent and respect the response that they give, because they're becoming like an active part in supporting you. And just because someone loves you doesn't mean they have to be unconditionally available to support you through whatever you're going through. And it doesn't invalidate what you're going through, but it's an invitation to take some accountability on, and learn how to reparent yourself, learn how to self-soothe, like do some journaling. Or maybe like they've rain checked the phone call or the catch up for the weekend. You can be like, okay, cool. Well, maybe I can hold myself through these complex emotions, or have a cry and do some journaling. And then when I can have coffee with them on Saturday, I can come to them with how far I've gotten. But you might still be stuck, and you're just like, yeah, well, like I journaled about this, but I'm still feeling like really upset about this and that. And they'll see that you've done as much as you can. And like, as social human beings, we can't always see our blind spots. But if you're not taking like your accountability for the part that it's playing in like the pain or the confusion that you're going through, people can show you, like, point out your blind spots through a conversation, but it doesn't mean you're going to turn around and make those changes. So yeah, asking for consent and respecting their response is a beautiful invitation to get in the driver's seat of your experience, like the experience that you're going through. And it's okay if you're struggling, but just because, like I said, just because someone loves you doesn't mean they need to be available on tap all the time to talk to you. Another piece of advice I want to give for like conscious communication is, if you do sit there with a friend, and whether it's the first time or the 50th time you've needed to talk to them about something, please express gratitude to that person for holding space for you and supporting you and giving you advice and showing you your blind spots. Like, honestly, a little bit of appreciation goes a really, really long way. Whereas if you just call them up, blurt all of this information onto them, take their advice and be like, yeah, okay, cool, bye, they're not going to feel respected, and they're probably going to be less invested the next time you call them up like, oh my God, Graham texts me again. They're like, well, we're kind of playing out the same situation here. And, last time was like a 2-hour phone call and you didn't even ask how I was. Like, that might be what they're thinking. So another huge piece of advice and, a piece of communication you can take on board to make sure that you're cultivating these healthy, supportive relationships with your loved ones is expressing that gratitude. And like I said, a little goes a really long way. And, sometimes I would prefer solitude, but a friend really speaks to me like, oh, I'm going through a breakup, or like, I'm very time poor, I'm very confused. And I will make that space for them because I know that they need me. And that it just makes the whole, rejig and reprioritizing of my time and my energy that much more worth it when it's actually appreciated and acknowledged. Like, wow, Zoz, thank you so much for coming out to dinner with me after a huge day at work. Like, I know you've got a big week. And you're just like, oh, it's like all good. Like, thank you so much for acknowledging that. But yeah, it's about not having this, what's the word, like this expectation that everyone will just drop everything to come and help you with your struggles, which, like, yes, like loved ones can help you with your struggles, but you need to remember that they're going through their complexities of life as well, and they might not always be able to show up for you. So expressing your gratitude when they can make a huge difference, because that recognition piece is just so, so important. And like I've already said a few times in this episode, just because they love you doesn't mean that you should have this unconditional support from them. You need to respect their boundaries and their capacity and what they're going through. Another communication piece is also taking on their advice. So just say you're sitting here like, oh, I just really don't like my job. And then that person's like, okay, well, like be mindful of, do you just want to complain and be heard, or do you actually want a solution? Because a lot of the time you can be offered a solution by a friend and they might be like, okay, well, maybe speak to your manager about how stressed out you are, or take some time off, and you're just like waving it away. Like, no, like, I'm really struggling. Didn't you hear me? And they're sort of like, yeah, I'm listening to you and I'm giving you advice and you're not paying attention sort of thing. So actually start actively listening to what people have to say back to you when you're struggling and you need that support. Because, and acknowledge, or as well, like, maybe just give a disclaimer at the start, like, actually don't need any advice right now, I just really need to be heard. So the more that you can actively listen to what they have to say, or acknowledge to a friend and give them a disclaimer of like, I'm actually not really needing advice right now, I just really need to be heard and recognized in the state of being that I am and the pain that I'm going through. Again, that's, and comes back to the consent piece. Can I have a little vent? Is that okay? And that person can be like, oh, actually, no, like, I can see all these solutions in front of you and you're not really doing anything about it. So, I'm going to have to tap out from this little situation, and you're going to have to be okay with that, So, yeah. Like I said, again, just giving, it's the consent, but then two, giving a disclaimer. So one, if they have been like, yeah, I can totally listen to you, take a moment again to check in with yourself and be like, oh, I'm kind of like just feeling really vulnerable right now. I'm not really actually looking for a solution. And just like a little tangent on that is that if you have a lot of males in your life and you're trying to sit there and communicate with them and you don't feel like you're being heard and they're just offering solutions, that's totally okay. It's not like they don't love you or support you, but a male is wired for solutions. Like, if you think back to caveman days, they were the hunters and the protectors, and they didn't really have much time to slow down and be like, yeah, so I'm just feeling this, like, men haven't really been wired or supported to feel very much. And I'm not saying they don't feel now, but I'm just saying to you, if you're sitting there talking to like a male friend or a boyfriend or something and you're not feeling heard and they're just offering solutions, it's a disclaimer piece as well. And it's a healthy communication to be like, I really love all this advice that you're giving me, but it actually feels like a little bit down the road for me with that. I'm just actually still feeling a bit raw, and I just want to be heard and held and witnessed. Like, it's very important as human beings to be witnessed. Whereas females, we were the gatherers, we were the community builders, we were the mothers, the grandmothers, the shamans, like, we were the healers of the community. And we're very community-based and connection-based. So you might notice that when you're having a conversation with a female, she can just sit there and witness you and listen. But if you're talking to a male and he's there like, okay, well, you need to call your manager, blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, but you're not listening to me. But they are. But that's just the way that a male, brain or psyche or whatever part of the male it is, that's how they operate. So if they're offering you advice, that it's not actually that they're ignoring you. If you're not ready for that advice, just consciously communicate with them, like, not in an erratic way. Just be like, I really love that you're giving me all this advice, but I just need some space held for me and to be witnessed right now. So it's a very, like, all of the communication needs to be conscious and open. And sometimes it's at the start asking for consent. Sometimes you're going halfway through your little vent and you're just like, fuck, like, they're not listening to me. Again, express to them, like, I know you're holding so much space for me, but I'm actually feeling really disconnected, And it's about constantly checking in throughout the conversation and the soundboarding experience of like, I really love that you're holding the space for me, but I'm actually feeling a bit confused, and let them, and then stop and actively listen to like, oh, okay, well, it just seems like you're upset and you're wanting solutions. You can be like, oh, okay, that's so valid. But I'm also just like very emotional right now, and I just need to let it all out, sort of thing. So carrying that conscious, honest communication throughout the conversation is really important as well. There's another piece I wanted to say. Oh yeah, kind of circling back to the active listening part as well, because I feel like I got off into other tangents. But check in with yourself. Do you want advice, or are you just trying to complain? Because actively listening to someone is different to passively listening. And if you're just wanting to word vomit all of your experience onto somebody, and then you find that they're talking, you're sitting there like a bit like, can you just shut up so I can keep talking? That's passively listening. And if you stop resisting the listening and just slow down and be present and actively listen to what they have to say, usually they will have the solution for you. And like I said, you might be like, that's a really great solution. I just actually can't action that right now, or I just need to digest that. But like, I promise you, I will revisit that option super soon. But it's also about coming back to respecting your process. And I don't mean keep complaining and not taking the action, but also don't bypass the emotional experience or the soundboarding. So it's about finding that happy medium. So actively listening, guys. If you're sort of just wanting to talk and be heard, and you're not willing to like hear what they have to say back, that's not a very fair and balanced conversation either. So it's about both being an active, conscious part in that conversation. Because like I said, there's nothing wrong with struggling. There's nothing wrong with expressing how you're feeling. But I think bringing these little tidbits into the conversation, like consent and actively listening, and the other things I mentioned that have left my brain right now, I feel like it's such a it's a respect piece, a mutual, that's the word I'm looking for, a mutual respect piece, because it's not invalidating what you're going through, but it's also respecting that person's ability to hold that space for you and feel validated in being your support. Because like I said, if you just want to vent and you're not ready for the options, and they're just giving you all these options and you're not taking that advice, that's invalidating that person's ability to support you. And then I promise you, over time, they will slowly pull away. So if you've had any friends or loved ones around you that you're sort of feeling that like they're pulling away a little bit, they're withdrawing a little bit, what's going on? Get out of your own little pity party and just be like, okay, cool. Well, let's actually, in a really loving way, reflect on the last few interactions with them, or what's going on. Like, have there been breadcrumbs that have led up to that person pulling away from you? And sometimes they will actively set that boundary, like, hey, babe, I can't talk about this anymore. But other people as well don't want to actively set that verbal boundary with you, and they might have pulled away. So reflect on that and take that accountability piece and feel and be compassionate with yourself and be like, okay, yeah, I was like, I'm really kind of in it at the moment. And especially as a female, like any emotion that we're experiencing is our entire experience. So it's like, oh, okay, like I can actually see where they were offering me the ladder to pull myself out of the pit. But as a female, or in a particular part of your cycle, sometimes like you just can't see that ladder. It's like you got a blindfold on. They're like, hey, fucking take the ladder. And you're like, what? What do you mean? I'm by myself and I'm alone and there's no solution at all. And they're just like, oh my God, like help yourself. Help me help you. Help me help you, sort of thing. So if you are listening to this episode like, oh yeah, I actually really feel like I've been maybe driving all my friends crazy, or I haven't been super conscious in or expressing open gratitude towards what they've been doing, and you're sensing people acting a bit differently around you, that's totally okay. Like maybe you've done too much damage, and that's fine, and that's something you need to accept. And that's like, I could do a whole nother episode on that, but that's okay. If you've like done too much damage through this like unconscious communication and this over expectation in what people should provide you with in that support sense, sometimes people aren't going to hang around to find out if you can figure that out. And that's a really tough cookie to bite into, but that's just life. Like I did a few episodes ago on rejection, and that's just life. And sometimes we learn by our mistakes. So if that happens, it's just an invitation to come back to that compassion piece for yourself, and use the things that have potentially pushed people away as an invitation to go within and better yourself. And it's not from this like self-rejection place. It's like, oh, okay, like I was only doing the best that I could, the best that I could in any moment with all of the understanding that was available to me. And I can see how I've kind of pushed that person away. So do that work to become that better version of yourself, but not from a place of self-rejection, from a place of compassion and love and gentleness. And then use that like as a way to evolve into I want to say a better, but like a more conscious version of yourself, so that you can avoid maybe pushing people away in the future. And like I said, some people will express that boundary to you in a verbal way, and other people won't. Other people will just be like, nah, she's too far gone, like I can't help her, sort of thing. And like I said, if you feel like there's been some damage done, but you want to revive, or revive the relationship, if that's the right term, reach out to them and take complete accountability. Like, oh my God, like I was so unconscious to what I was doing, I'm really sorry. Or if you were conscious to it, like, apologize, be like, yeah, no, I really knew what I was doing and it was wrong, and I'm really sorry for how it's affected you. And then apologize to them. So take accountability, apologize, take on their feedback in a very graceful way, because hopefully these people that are offering you that advice are offering it to you from a place of love. Like, I can see where you're going wrong, and I just want you to check yourself before you wreck yourself kind of vibe, you know? So this is it's like a huge humility piece of like, okay, I can see where I've gone wrong and where I was kind of like leaking all of my suffering onto people without realizing, or you were realizing, but now you're like, oh, actually, I want to take accountability for that. Excuse me. Yeah, it's like a really hard thing to look at. But if you don't want to look at it, it's also your ego protecting you. That if that message of like, no, I'm right and they're wrong, it's like, are you right? Were they wrong? You know, like sort of thing. Like, zoom out with that really compassionate lens and just be like, okay, I can see why that person might be closing off towards me. And if they will have you, ask to have the conversation, like take all of this advice that I've given in the episode, like ask for consent, like, hey, I've noticed like a bit of distance. I'm feeling a bit anxious about it, or, you know, I've noticed like we're a bit off in the relationship. If you have the capacity, could you possibly, you know, let me know how you're feeling, or confirm or deny what's going on? And hopefully they're conscious enough and provide you that feedback from a place of love. But also, yeah, this won't apply if you've got a toxic person in your life and they've just completely pulled away. Like, that's probably not a place to put your energy. And then it comes back to that, you know, that self-work piece for yourself sort of thing. So yeah, I might leave it there. But yeah, I get it, guys. If you're struggling, like, we're just wired to want, especially as a female, to want that community and that support and that connection around us. But like I said, you need to, you know, rebalance things. And if it's just all about you and all about your suffering all the time, like, of course you're going to push people away, and it's a really harsh truth to realize. And I've had situations in my life where I've had to look at myself in the mirror and be like, oh shit, like, I'm a bit insufferable at the moment, but from a place of love. And then I've had friends as well be like, oh yeah, I kind of like stepped over the line there and I just made it about me, or I was talking about the same thing for 6 months and didn't realize that I wasn't taking on people's advice, etc. And it's a tough piece, but when you realize that, you disidentify from your ego and you move into a place of love, and you realize that, like, we're all connected beings, and people aren't like pulling away or rejecting you because they don't love you, but like they love themselves more, sort of thing. So yeah. And then actually, sorry, one more piece of advice. If you're finding that your support network is waning, or they're feeling very exhausted, whether that's like from your own assumption or something that people have told you, and be mindful with your own assumption. Like, if there's an anxiety piece there, again, it comes back to that conscious, honest communication to be like, hey, I'm feeling really anxious about this. Could you just like let me know X, Y, and Z? And they'll be like, yeah, no, it's all good, babe. I'm just really, really busy with work. I just can't right now. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then you come back to that accountability piece of like, that's just my anxiety talking. I need to go and do X, Y, and Z to self-soothe. So if you're feeling like intuitively like someone's pulling away, check in and see if that's anxiety creating a story. Ask them if you can for the feedback. And if not, then it comes back to that accountability piece of like, okay, well, and it's, you know, it's really funny. Like, you probably will, it won't be such a blind spot. You'll be like, oh no, yeah, I can definitely see how I was kind of, you know, digging my own grave there, sort of thing. And then like I said, check in with all of that stuff. And if you're feeling like your support network is like kind of waning or getting a bit exhausted by that constant need to support you because you're suffering through something really big, and that's not to invalidate that you're suffering. Like, suffering is just part of life and the spiritual journey. It's a beautiful invitation to go within and evolve. But if your current support network and your personal support network can't keep up with that level of suffering, outsource for some professional help, whether that's a counselor, a Reiki practitioner, like an energy worker. And those people are paid and professionally trained to support you through a suffering. So it's not weak to speak or whatever the term is. And it's okay to have a healer in your corner, or a counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever it needs to be. There is so much professional help out there as well. So if you're feeling like no one gets me or no one cares about me anymore, one, be mindful of that victimhood story, or two, it might actually be a reality and you do need to outsource to I always explain like seeing a healer as like your spiritual PT. And then when you come back into your real life, that's like the gym and the diet. You know, you've got to implement the advice that the healer or the counselor gave you, and have conscious conversations, and make sure you've got that balance with the support network there going, sort of thing. So it's totally okay to outsource to have professional help. And it might alleviate some of the stress or the weight that your untrained personal community has around you, because they love you so much and they just want to see you shift whatever you're going through, or the suffering that you're going through. But there's an accountability piece there, so make sure you're doing your own work, share the love, use the consent, express gratitude, and then also outsource for professional help if you need. So yeah, guys, if you're someone that really resonates with needing to soundboard with how you feel, and obviously I've focused this a lot on if you're feeling negative feelings or dense feelings, and obviously like everyone loves sharing good feelings, sort of thing, but it's okay to need to communicate your dense feelings, and don't invalidate them by not reaching out to people. But I hope by sharing these little communication hacks and tidbits and advice to maybe outsource some of that need for support as well, it can just reestablish the balance between the support that you want from your community and what they can offer you. Yeah, that's it. Okay, best of luck guys. I hope all of that lands and helps you kind of redevelop the relationships around you to be more conscious, balanced, loving ones, rather than too much give and take or toxicity and all of that jazz. So love yourself, love everyone around you, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you on the next episode. Hey, beautiful soul. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Oasis.state podcast. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend. It means the world to me knowing that everyone who needs this medicine and magic can lovingly receive it. Also, I'd love to hear from you, so feel free to reach out via social media, my website, or email. Can't wait to connect, and until then, sending you heaps of love.